I had a roommate named Michael, but one day a strange rotten smell started to come from his room. So I told him, "Michael, your room smells of something rotten. If you have a nose, you can smell it too, right?" Then he shouted, "Your nose must have been rotten," and slammed the door. I was puzzled, not only because of the smell, but also because Michael's personality seems to have changed. One day at 3 a.m, he shouted very loudly in his room, "You are more beautiful than a goddess. I will do anything that you want me to." I didn't understand what he was doing, so I knocked on the door. Then he yelled inside, "Don't bother me now, Steve. I didn't bother you when you were with your girlfriend." I was so confused. So one day, when he wasn't home, I decided to secretly open his room. I found the key and opened his door. His room was neat and tidy and nothing seemed out of place. But the moment I looked in the mirror, there was a woman standing behind me, staring at me. I was so surprised and looked around, but no one was there. Then I heard the woman's voice in my ear.
"Do you want to play with me?"
Then, along with a rotten smell, I felt a hand running down my neck. Startled, I looked in the mirror again and saw a rotten skeleton beside me, touching me and whispering. I screamed and ran out of the room. I was so scared, but there was nothing I could do, and I couldn't hear anyone in the room. The next morning, when I opened the room again, there was no sign, and I didn't have the courage to look at the mirror. So I just shut the door. I was confused whether I was dreaming or seeing things. When Michael came back home later, I asked him what the hell was going on in the room. He pretended that he doesn't know anything at first, but eventually he began to tell the truth. What was shocking was that he had practiced necromancy one day out of curiosity, and a stunning female spirit appeared. So he didn't send her back and let her live in his room. I didn't believe him and told him not to lie, but when he took me to his room to show her to me, the room was obviously empty. But when he said, "Cassandra," I suddenly heard someone walking in on the ceiling, and with the feeling of someone's hair touching my head, the room started to reek of something rotten. I couldn't even look up and ran out of the room screaming. Since then, her voice was heard from time to time in Michael's room. I kept thinking what I should do about this, but Michael seemed so happy, and I thought there would be no harm to me since it was what happened in their room. But one thing that gave me goosebumps was what Michael always said by habit. "I will become one with you, Cassandra!" He started to lock himself in his room, not coming out for days, and I started to become worried about him. Then one day, he hadn't been out of the room for so long that I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I eventually opened his door and I was startled. He was lying on the bed and his body had swelled twice as large as if there was something inside him. I screamed and called the police. When the police arrived and checked, he was already dead, and his body was filled with black liquid. As a result of the autopsy, the liquid inside his body was found to be rotten blood, but no evidence was found of whose blood it was or where it came from. After Michael's death, I was lost in grief. Recently, I started dating someone new and stayed with her at my house. But the strange thing was that she kept saying this to me these days.
"I want to become one with you."
Then she clung to me and hugged me tight. I suddenly got goosebumps and pushed her away, but she kept coming over to me, repeating the same words over and over again. I indulged in her moderation, but as time passed, it got worse. Now she holds me tight and keeps telling me that she wants to be with me for 24 hours so that we can become one. What should I do now?